and we're glad you're here this week. So, if you guys have been around the last few weeks, we are doing a series called Stop the Insanity. And it is based around the idea that you do not have to buy lots and lots of patterns necessarily to get the look that you're going for. You may already have a pattern or your sloper in your collection that you can just change, make some easy changes on.
So you don't have to do all the fitting adjustments
Right.
every time you make another,
You don't have to
in
buy
this case, a
another
shirt.
pattern and you don't have to make all the fitting adjustments. You just make the adjustments to the pattern that you already own and you know that fits.
Yeah. So the first week we did, I believe, the short sleeve.
And
So,
yep,
yeah, so we showed you how to do a very quick and easy adjustment to turn your long sleeve shirt pattern into a short sleeve. And one person said jokingly, "You mean I can't just cut it off?" No. First of all, you just cut it off, it's going to be too narrow, so it looks really funny.
well, you can do whatever you want,
Oh,
but
yeah,
we do
yeah.
not suggest that.
For the best look, you cannot just cut it off. And you could go through a lot of steps based on pattern drafting to redraft a shorter sleeve. But I showed you the way I would do it, and I know how to draft, but I wouldn't go to that trouble. I would take an existing short sleeve and superimpose it, uh, and you'll see that in the first episode, so I won't go into detail, but that's the way I would do it. And it is the easier and faster way to do it. But we went forward last week to talk about raising the arm size so you could have a sleeveless shirt.
Well, and then the first week we also talked about
Yes,
pocket
auditioning pocket,
placement, like auditioning it, pocket placement, pocket size, the
shape.
changes you can make, shape, all that sort of stuff. So if you didn't see that, because I've got a couple people that say they haven't been here in a little bit,
Okay.
all the videos are right here on Facebook or on YouTube. Islander Sewing Systems on YouTube. We have a channel now. So if you want to go back and watch those, it's really great information. I know the pocket one was fun because we were bouncing ideas off of people in the comments and really brainstorming and coming up with some cool ideas there.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like you said, the hem.
Yes, and then last week we talked about raising the arm size so that you could do a sleeveless version. And then we talked about creating a straight hem as opposed to the shirt tail hem and how to convert the pattern to that.
Yes, and we talked about the arm side and why you do have to change the arm side and you cannot just take the
Just
sleeve
not,
off
yeah.
and just bind it or whatever you want to do to make it. And I see that Janet has brought maybe some mail she got today and had a lot to say about.
So we're getting ready for today's episode, and we were going to talk about the sleeveless and everything. And the mail comes, and here's a postcard from a garment manufacturer. And look at the arm side on that sleeveless. I can't see if I'm getting it right. Yeah. So look at that. Look how low that is. Now, this model is obviously not wearing any undergarment, bra or camisole or anything. But it still kind of looks odd to me. But if she was wearing a bra, we'd know exactly what color it was and maybe the manufacturer. So that's why you raise the arm side and you don't use the armhole that was made for inserting a sleeve.
See, now you guys will see that sort of stuff everywhere as well and be annoyed like Janet.
Well, disappointed. Disappointed. I am so disappointed. I'm just going to go off on a little tangent
Sure,
here.
I'll sit back.
So I'm looking through, let's see. Oh, uh, Cozy Earth is the name of the brand. And it apparently is a brand touted by Oprah's favorite things. And so I'm like, okay, well, what's so great about this stuff? So I go in. Well, the first thing that's really great about it is they use bamboo. So they have bamboo t-shirts and bamboo tank tops. Tank tops, $52. T-shirts, $57. Now, we use bamboo in our t-shirt classes and we have it here. And so you can see how it elevates the price of a t-shirt, but it's well worth it. But what I didn't like when I was on their site, and I see this over and over again now, more than ever before, is identified terms in fashion. So they had these really nice pajamas, and every single one of them said notch collar pajamas. There was no notch in the collar. How can somebody think that's a notch collar? I'm going to go on my pet peeve. It was a shawl collar. But even if you don't know fashion,
A notch is a notch.
a notch is a notch. There's no notch. It's not an. And every single pair of pajamas they had notch collar, notch collar, notch collar. So anyway, I get a little frustrated.
Somebody messed up.
Well, it happens a lot though these days where the terminologies are either muddled or changed. It's like high waisted. High waisted used to be above your waist. But if you ask someone who's under 40 what's a high waisted jeans, it's at the waist because they had never experienced jeans at the waist. They experienced jeans at the hip line. So high waisted to them is at the waist. Again, it's just a contradiction in terms.
It's just out there to annoy Janet.
Well, not everybody knows fashion terms, but
But it does. It's like I tease you, but it does create confusion
Yeah, we have to speak the same language.
for people. Yeah. It's like, and a lot of people, don't make all their own garments. They make some and buy some, and it's like,
Sure.
let's keep it consistent.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay, so before we get into our Stop the Insanity discussion for today, the new stuff, and Janet has a demo for you. She wants to remind you, or let you know actually, that we have some new kits made up that you can choose the fabric for the Shirt Makers Express, and it's both women and men versions.
these come in the very small to the 4X, and they're also the shirt patterns that are on our Craftsy class and shirt making. So it's a very intensive class all about shirt making, and this is the pattern we use on that class. So we decided to finally put it into kits, just like you see our everybody's shirt is in kits. So both of those are now available in kits. And then the Easy shirt. Now remember we did the sew along with the Easy shirt. And in that sew along I did view C, with the hood, and we had the flannel fabrics. Well, it's no longer flannel fabric weather, so we have made up some kits for you to choose the fabric from for the view A, or let's see, we just have A or B? No, just, yeah, A or B, I think. Well, I can't see the back of it. I got to note it there. So anyways, A or B, you can make the shirt with a traditional collar. So this makes a sport shirt or a dress shirt. It depends on the fabric and the buttons that you use. It'll be a sport shirt or a dress shirt. And that also is available. And all of these kits are available. If you've already got the pattern, you can buy the kit without the pattern. It's called the basic. If you don't have the pattern, then you want to choose the deluxe kit.
Okay.
So our kits page is getting bigger every day.
Bigger. So we put the fabric in there, the shirting is what we're letting you know. So you have, did you tell them how many? 10 to choose from?
10 to choose from.
It was 11. It is now 10. So if you don't get on it, it might be down to 9 or 8. And how will you ever choose from only 8?
Yeah.
I feel like I might have heard Janet say this one before, Anthony. He said button down shirt. He doesn't like that. Shirts button up, collars button down.
That is correct. Did I say it backwards?
No, he's just going off of our terminology thing. Like we were talking about the notch.
Oh, yeah. That kind of bothers me too, but again, it's become so generic, the button up and button down thing, that it's just being used even by shirt makers sometimes, And yeah, I think some of that stuff we have to just let go. Let it go.
Who are you?
I don't know. I'm trying.
She's trying. She's like, it hurts her to say it.
What's that princess name? Let it go.
Elsa.
I'm trying to channel my inner Elsa. It's not working.
So yeah, so those the shirting is in those 3 kits now. So take a look if you're interested in that. It gets you what you need to make that. Otherwise, the fabrics themselves are listed as well.
Yes, you can
Yeah.
always buy everything separate. But when you buy the kit, we put all of the ingredients together, calculate the price, and then subtract 20%. So if you're going to buy pattern, fabric, interfacing, buttons, you're going to save a lot by buying the kit. Otherwise, if you've already got your interfacing and your pattern, then fabric and buttons are all you need, and we have those.
Yep. And that answers your question, Brenda. Do you include the buttons?
Yes.
Yes. What else? What else? Oh, and of course, what's a Tuesdays with at 2 without new fabric?
What's a week without new fabric?
Well, it happens every Tuesday, so.
Yeah, this one was kind of a spontaneous purchase. She's going to say all mine are spontaneous purchase, but they're not. Anyway, we have 3 colorways in this Bemberg Cupro. Bemberg Cupro. Okay, so then I'm going to wait and see.
For what?
Somebody say, what is it?
Well, I think you know that somebody's going to say that, or maybe nobody will, and they'll all just sit there Googling it. So you might as well just tell them.
Okay, so Cupro is recycled fibers, and it can be a lot of different fabrics, including polyester is involved. And then the fabric is treated with a chemical process that gives it this suede feel, this beautiful luster, this dull luster. It's also a crosshatch, so you can actually, maybe you can hold that up so they can see.
Sure, I can try.
The actual texture or weave. It's actually the weave of the fabric.
What you're never going to get on that's good. Okay. What you're never going to get on camera, though, is the feel of this. It is just...
So if you've ever used Bemberg rayon, this has the same feel. It's not rayon, but it has that same surface texture or feel, which is that nice suede. It's also very fluid. It's a very soft, summery kind of fabric. So we got it in this sky blue, and we also have it in, wow, when you have that up, it turned us all orange, white and black. So I bought a small amount because I didn't know how everyone would respond to it. It does need to be pre-shrunk because it does shrink. I did the test. So you'll find that on the website under shirting. But remember, this is a very soft. So one of the reasons I bought it is for shirts that might be like this one. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But just a soft, drapey, not a structured garment. So not a lot of seaming, not a lot of darting and stuff like that.
Yep. So that answers your question, Mary, just as if it was lining or shirting.
Yeah, it's shirting, but it's summer soft. It's almost gauze-like.
Yeah, it's very nice. Very, very
but
nice
that
to feel.
Wonderful hand to it is fabulous. So anyways, that's on the website now. And let's go to the one question I wanted to answer, and then I'll go into my... okay, so 2 or 3 people have asked, please tell me what I need to do if I don't want a collar and I just want a collar stand on my shirt. And some of you already know the answer to this, but other people are wondering, is there anything I need to do different? No. You just skip the collar. Don't cut it out. Don't interface it. Don't sew it in. Just the same process, and you'll have a collar stand. So I did that on one that I'm working on right now. And maybe you can zoom in a little bit on this one. It doesn't have any buttons or buttonholes on it. But I did bring the collar stand down considerably. And the reason I did that is because I have no neck.
Oops, sorry guys.
So it works a lot better for me if I have um, a shorter collar stand. But you see how nice that cups around the neckline. And remember how I always say, honor the curve.
Hold on, I'm just gonna.
Don't stretch it out straight. Don't stitch it in a straight format, but make sure it curves. That's how you get a neckline that looks like this and just sits out there away from the neck. So, and again, I shortened this considerably. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you about, and I can show you in this one, is when we're using lawn, in my particular original sloper, I had a very large bust dart. And for those of you who have the double D cup or bigger, you know those darts are just a big chunk of fabric in here, and they can be kind of an eyesore, especially in a lawn that's so soft and you want it to drape, as well as the fact that a lot of times it's not so opaque that you can't see it coming through here, but you see nothing, right? Well, that's because I cut it off with the serger. So my dart was huge. And after I stitched my dart, I just came back and I trimmed all the excess out of there with the serger. I get the beautiful shaping, but I don't have that big chunk of fabric to interrupt the eye or the drape of my fine fabric. So that's a good tip, and I picked that up from Ready to Wear. I had a Ready to Wear, I think I told everybody about the pink and white one that I always loved, and I happened to look one day and I saw that's exactly what they had done. And I said, well, I can do that. And I love the way that it gives me the right shape without a lot of bulk. All right. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about, I'm going to grab that sleeveless one and from behind you, Jess.
Well, why don't you just go there and I'll move?
Okay. So last week we talked about how.
Sorry, guys, I'm getting there.
Okay, last week we talked about binding or finishing the arm side of a sleeveless. So this is the same pattern as everything that's up here. And so I raised mine a ½ inch. I probably should have raised it a little bit more, maybe 3/4 to an inch. You have a choice between a ½ and 1 inch. So when you put your muslin on, you're going to see, look at how deep this arm side is that's got a sleeve in it. So you're going to see when you put it on your body and kind of eyeball what you think is how much higher you want it. Remember, there's a small seam allowance there, so include that. And then do the muslin, just to be sure. But anyway, that's what I did. And next time I would raise it just a little bit more. But this is how I finished the arm side. So this is with self-bias that I cut. And what I did, as just a quick little tip I'm going to show you. I cut, oh, there it is.
Am I following you?
No.
Oh, too late.
Okay. So I cut my bias strips. And then I ran it through the bias tape maker, but I only ran through one side. So I kind of, it takes a little jiggling, but once you get it jiggled over, it will only fold up the one side. The unfolded side is the side we're going to sew to the right side of the arm side. And then this will fold over and get top stitched down. Now you've got to be cautious and careful as you go around the sharpest curves, because you could get some puckering around the sharper part of the curve. So you kind of got to encourage it to stretch a little bit. And you can see it came out just slightly wider than the 1/4 inch. So you may even have to trim your seam allowance. But don't if you don't have to, because what that does is that seam allowance is in here and it just creates more structure to keep your arm side from collapsing. So that's what it is, and this is folded over a quarter. So I believe I'll measure my bias and tell you exactly, but I think it was 3/4. You don't want it too wide because you got to go around that curve, and the wider you make it, the more difficult it is going to be to make it curve. Mine's exactly 1 inch, exactly 1 inch wide with 1/4 inch seam allowances. So if you have to, you might have to trim a little bit out. If you do, just don't trim it all out, the seam allowance. Okay, so as long as we're here, here's my muslin for this particular project. And you can see that I have one sleeve in, and I only have half the collar on, half the collar stand. When you're making a muslin, it isn't all, if you've got it symmetrical from one side to the other, it's not necessary to do the whole thing to make sure the pieces are going to fit. So this is what a working muslin should look like.
All right, Mary's asking, do you apply the binding in the round or flat?
Flat, Mary. So one key thing to easy construction is always sew in the flat whenever you can. Never sew in the round. Everything in the flat. That's why we put the pocket on before we do anything else, because the garment's flat. We put the sleeve in before we put the side seam in, so the garment's flat. It's just a whole lot more efficient and easier to sew in the flat. Oh, I'm looking at the computer, sorry. So, and all the fabrics I've used here are fabrics in our lawn collection. So you can see them made up. It might spark your inspiration. Now the one at the end with the little collar stand, that one is the only one I didn't put the vertical darts in. That one's more, is gonna have, it's got the straight hem, and I'm put the split at the side, so it's gonna be look entirely different than the rest of them, which is kind of cool out of the same pattern. I think I might audition a pocket on there too.
I did have another question about the new fabric.
Okay.
Claudia wanted to know if it's dyeable with Procyon.
No, because there's polyester in it. Procyon won't dye polyester. And even if it does, it just barely stains it. So you wouldn't get a nice clear look, because some of your fibers are poly and some of them are wood pulp or rayon or cotton. You don't know when they're recycling things to make new fabric. You don't, and that's why it's got its own special name. You'll either see it as Cupra or Cupro, and it's a relatively new concept, but no. Guess that's the straight answer, no.
Well, Brenda, you notice they don't have buttons. Most of them. She said, "Who gets stuck putting all the buttons on these shirts?" Well, nobody.
Well, I plan on the blue one's got buttons on it.
Yes.
I plan on doing them in production style. So once I get the buttonhole all threaded up, I'll just put all the buttonholes in. I've got one more I'm going to do. So I'm going to do them all at the same time. It's the production specialist in me that likes to do it that way.
All right, so did you have a demo too?
Yeah, I do. So I want to go over to the other side of the table so I can work with my patterns. Maybe I will turn this sideways. That might help us a lot. Okay, so first of all, for those of you who have the Pattern Making Made Easy book, I am working on page 260, and it's called the Kimono Sleeve. So, we all know what a kimono sleeve is. It's just a big rectangle, right? But it is also in fashion determined by the fact that it's not set in, and but yet it's not a raglan. It's continuation of the shoulder. So, in other words, what I want to copy is the shirt I have on. I bought two shirts like this about 5 or 6 years ago, and they weren't expensive, but I love the design of it. I love the comfort of it. I can wear it with shorts, I can wear it with slacks, you can even wear it with a skirt, but it's really loose. It's that soft fabric. It has a deeper yoke in the back. I can turn around and show you it has a deeper yoke. And that's pretty much it. This is going to be a lot faster to put together than others, but we have to change our pattern again. So after you've traced out a new front and a new yoke, this is what you're going to do. So in order to create that longer shoulder, we have to raise up our shoulder at the outside edge by a half an inch. So I'm going to come up here. Oh, that one was open. The half an inch. Okay. And now all you have to do is come back to the inside corner, meet up with that half inch, and continue out. All right, then we're going to decide how far out on our shoulder do we want this to go. So I'm just going to pick a arbitrary 9 inches. Okay, so then we don't want this arm side up so high. We've got to come back here lower. So I'm not sure she gives me a measurement. Well, above the waist. So here's our waistline. And in this particular, now nothing is written in stone. So I always go with what does Connie suggest to begin with. And then I might change it by an inch or two because I'm 5'2". The information, no, I'm 5'1" now. The information in the book, again, is general pattern drafting, and he's usually considering a person who's 5'6". So you have to make those adjustments accordingly. So what we want to do is we want to come up from here and create this curve. And what you'll want to do as well, we want to curve this right out to, let's say, here. I'm just going to do this real quick. All right. So this is maybe good, maybe not. So how deep is this? This does not look deep enough to me. It's only 6 inches. I'm either going to need to raise this up a little bit more or bring this down a little bit more. So I have the appropriate amount of distance in here. And I think this one's about 7.5. So I would need 7.5 plus seam allowance. So I'm going to have to come down a little further here. And maybe I want to start like this. And this is all about some trial and error. And what you're going to want to do is just make up a quick muslin now. So once you've decided, okay, is that going to be deep enough? Let's see. That one is 7.5 without seam allowance. So now I'd want to add a little seam allowance to it. Then the only thing left to do is the same thing to the back, which in this case is a yoke. And then confirm that it is going to have the same shoulder slope. So in this case, we would just add on to this. I'm probably going to make my yoke deeper, and I'll explain that in a second. So you just want to bring that up. Now, the other thing that you can do is here in the book, and that is if you have shoulder darts or you have bust darts, you'll collapse those to open this arm side up further. That's far more complicated without the directions in the book. So I'm telling you, if you have the book, go and take a look at page 260. And of course, once you're done, you want to transfer the same side seam to the back that you have in the front and the same shoulder slope to the back that you have in the front so that the pieces are balanced. You don't want to put something together where it doesn't have the same shape curve. So you'll adjust that. The back, where's the back here? Okay, so I have the back right now. Oh, here's one. Let's use this one. Okay, so we have the back. Now mine is curved because I have a rounded back. And we went over that a few months ago, how to do that. And then, oh, here's my yoke. So what I need to know is whatever I add on to the depth of this yoke, let's say it's 2 inches, I'm going to take 2 inches off of the back. But I have to take it from the top because otherwise, let me see, wait a minute. Think this through. Okay, all right. So I'm going to add to this. Make sure when you add to this, you're adding this. Okay? Because you still need the same depth of arm side. So don't add it to the bottom or something. You're going to add it here and subtract it here. So afterwards, this may be down here. So you want to make sure you have the same shape and size arm side. And because you still have your original pattern, because each time you make one of these changes, you're going to create a new tracing, you'll be able to confirm against your original pattern when you get done, just to make sure that your arm side is still the same shape and the same distance. And then that's all you need to do, and now you'll be able to whip this thing together in no time. This is like an hour and a half project at best. And I think it's a really cute shirt. I either lost them or whatever, but if I needed this deeper, I would probably, we came up a half inch. I would say you could come up even 3/4. So you could take that just a little bit higher. Don't get carried away. But that's going to add quite a bit to the depth here where we were worried we weren't going to have enough depth. So this gives me more flexibility. But, just do a rough draft. Throw a couple of pieces of muslin together and confirm it. You're probably going to have to make some minor changes. But the key to understanding pattern making is proofing. So, and part of that proofing is first you're going to confirm that all your seams line up and are at the right same angles, like your shoulder seams and your side seams. And then by sewing it up in a muslin, you even proof it or prove it, because I make mistakes all the time. I've got several mistakes here. If I had a couple hours, I'd tell you about all of them as I draft. But when I make the muslin up, I go, oh, well, I can't believe I did that. And I know what to do to fix it. But if I cut my fashion fabric out, I made a water. So always do your proofing. All right. I don't know what we said. We're going to review all of this next week. So if you have other questions about converting your button-up shirt into something that maybe we haven't covered, please feel free to ask. Now, the one thing people have asked about is the convertible collar. And I do recommend that if you want to make that change, you go to the book. The reason for that is, and I'd be happy to demonstrate it, but if you don't have the book, you'd be lost after a little bit. So, and that's all about drafting the collar. Once you've created your open neckline, which is what a convertible collar is, no collar stand, then you have measurements from that neckline that you use to create that collar.
Janice is curious, what do you do with all the muslins you make when you have made what you wanted?
Well, they're laying around. Jessica's laughing because she knew the answer. I don't know. They're wadded up. They're here. They're there. But I would keep them because there could come a time that you gained or lost weight, or you saw this great new whatever shape or design, or you want to turn it into a full length gown or something. You still have that muslin to start from. You still have those pieces. So
write on it what it is.
yes, and you all yes use your Sharpie and write on what pattern it is and the date that you did it and who you did it for. And I'm writing on them all the time saying, I changed this or I added that or whatever.
Connie wants to know, on your shirt, is the sleeve turned up twice for the hem?
I think that this is added. This is sewn on. It's like see, it's serged on. It's just a strip folded in half.
Let me show us.
Well, I'll show them next week.
Oh, okay.
So it's a strip folded in half.
You can't know, Connie. She's going to show you next week.
And it's serged to the bottom of the sleeve. And then folded up and pressed to make it look like a cuff. Well, it is a cuff, but...
And then they, tacked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I am always taking cues from ready to wear. I know you've heard me say that 100 times, but it's the way to go. Because the ready to wear is what we're trying to emulate anyway. So taking some of these old-fashioned or out-of-date or very basic patterns and trying to create a modern look or a modern silhouette sometimes ends up looking homemade. But if you go and you look at ready to wear and you go, well, I have a pattern that's that silhouette, all I have to do is put that cuff on, change that pocket, make it fit closer or further apart, and I've got that beautiful modern ready to wear look from this very simple basic pattern. All right, so next week I'll show you this finished shirt. I don't use it. She always gives me a hard time. I got a week. It's not that it's going to take me long. It's just that I have a lot of other things to do too. But I will talk more about this one, and we will have a review of what we've learned in our series so far and talk about where we're going to go after the button-up shirt.
Or button-down shirt.
Button-down collar. They never say button-up collar, but they'll say button-up shirt and button-down shirt. Yeah, I know. Those elusive people.
All right, so we'll be back next week.
We will be back next week. And if you have any questions or you're trying to do this in the meantime, just send me an email. I'll be happy to support you with that. And we do have our fitting support package up now. And so it comes with a critique form, which tells you exactly how to step-by-step the process of putting a muslin together and getting it to fit. And then if you get to the end of that fitting process and you're like, I still got a wrinkle here and I don't know what to do with this or whatever, then we have a support package you can purchase, and then we will work with you back and forth with photographs and tutorial, whatever it takes to make sure we get a good fit for you. So that's all available on the fitting page on the website, and all of our kits are on the kit page. All right. And you have anything else, Jess? Are we going to sign off from here? Or am
You
I?
can sign off right from there. I won't
I
make them dizzy turning it around.
okay. All right. So we'll be back next Tuesday at 2 Eastern Time for Tuesdays at 2 with Janet Prey and Jessica Johnson. We're here at Islander Sewing Systems all week. So if you have any questions, please just let us know by email or by phone before 4 o'clock, and we will be here to answer you. So have a great day and happy sewing, everybody.